Good evening. A landmark deal setting targets to protect the natural world in an area covering a third of the planet has been agreed by nearly 200 countries. The summit in Montreal was regarded as a last chance to put nature on a path to recovery. And it includes measures to preserve the diversity of the natural world, to protect ecosystems like rainforests and wetlands, and to ensure the rights of Indigenous peoples. But environmental groups have criticised the pledges for being voluntary and not legally binding. Well, our climate editor, Justin Rolat, is here with more. Justin.
Thanks, Rita. Today's agreement is about stopping the alarming decline of the natural world. It came at 3:30 this morning after a gruelling 7-hour meeting. So what has been agreed? Today's deal includes 23 targets, including protecting 30% of the land and sea by 2030. There are targets to prevent more species going extinct. And crucially, there is a funding mechanism. Rich countries have agreed to pay $30 billion a year by the end of 2030 to help developing countries protect nature. Not enough, say many developing countries, but it is a start. Here's what the UN chief had to say about today's deal.
We are finally starting to forge a peace pact with nature. This framework is an important step for determined diplomacy, and I urge all countries to deliver.
Remember this classic footage from Sir David Attenborough's Planet Earth 2 series? The UN had called the conference in Montreal the last chance to save the world's biodiversity.
A near miraculous escape.
Biodiversity means the huge range of species.
This is a leaf of the giant water lily.
The plants, animals, insects, fungi and microorganisms that together make up the richness of life on Earth.
Cold and disorientated, they search for the colony.
It is easy to see why there's so much concern about what's happening to the natural world. The UN calculates 1 million species are at risk of extinction in the coming decades. And just look how global wildlife populations have already declined. They are reckoned to have reduced by, look at that, 69% since 1970. And here's another way to look at the challenge. A staggering 75%, 3/4 of the surface of the Earth has already been significantly altered by humanity. What does significantly altered mean? We're talking cutting down forests, clearing land for farming, draining wetlands, damming rivers, or building towns and cities. This isn't just something that's happening in far-off countries with exotic ecosystems like rainforests or coral reefs.
Even in this one small English woodland, you might see 4 or 5 different kinds of finches.
If anything, the natural world is under even more pressure here in the UK. According to the nature charity the World Wildlife Fund, the UK is one of the most nature-depleted countries in the world. Our country is reckoned to have just 53% of its biodiversity left.
Here at home, we've just finally come out with our Environmental Act targets. We'll be laying the legislation, but we'll be doing things like restoring a variety of landscapes to make sure that they are homes for nature, whether that's about birds, whether that's about certain plants. And it's absolutely imperative that we have this space for nature within our country.
So what happens next? Some environmental campaigners have said today's deal doesn't go far enough. There is a framework for monitoring the progress countries make, but it's up to their governments to incorporate the nature targets into national policy. And there's another issue. The targets are not binding on the countries that have signed the agreement. They don't have to do this. But let's be clear, the consensus is that today's deal represents significant progress on tackling the crisis facing the world's wildlife, and as such, is very good news for the natural world. Rita.
Justin, thank you.